Jan Amos Comenius. He was born in Moravia. Due to poverty, his education was delayed, but it's not a hindrance to pursue his education and wrote his picture book called Orbis Pictures Sensualium. After that, he also wrote the book Great Didactic, published in 1657 in Holland. It means the children were trained to repeat memorized Latin vocabulary and conjugations but were not taught to think well. His contribution in education led him to be the father of modern education. John Locke. He is the father of English empiricism. He did not consider man to be a divine creature fixed with ideas on coming into this world. Instead, he believes in tabula rasa. Tabula rasa is the theory that individuals are born without built-in mental content and that therefore all knowledge comes from experience or perception. Francis Bacon. He wrote his book Novum Organum. Inductive method is produced. Wrote New Atlantis, a utopian society and the idols of the mind. The inductive methods start from sensible experience and moves via history. Induction can be only efficient if it is eliminative by exclusion, which goes beyond the remit of induction by simple enumeration. The inductive method helps the human mind to find a way to ascertain truthful knowledge. Novum Organum. Idols of the tribe, idols of the cave, idols of the marketplace, idols of the theater. Richard Mulcaster. Many of his pedagogical theories weren't generally accepted until at least 250 years after his death. He studied at Eton, Cambridge, and Oxford. He became a high master at St. Paul's. He wrote his book Positions Concerning the Training Up for Children in 1581 and the first part of the Elementary in 1582. He emphasized the importance of individual differences in children. François Fenelon. In 1689, Louis XIV named Fenelon's friend the Duc de Beauvilliers as governor of the royal grandchildren. As tutor, Fenelon was charged with guiding the character formation of a future king of France. He wrote several important works specifically to guide his young charge. This includes his fables and his dialogue de morts. Wolfgang Ratke. His system of education was based upon Francis Bacon's philosophy, the principle being that of proceeding from things to names, from the particular to the general, and from the mother tongue to foreign languages. His fundamental idea was that the Baconian theory of induction was following nature, meaning that there is a natural sequence along which the mind moves in the acquisition of knowledge, through particulars to the general. Martin Luther was born on November 10, 1483. At the age of 18, he went to the University of Erfurt. In 1505, he became a doctor in philosophy. In 1507, he was ordained to the priesthood. He took up the office of the teacher in the newly founded University of Wittenberg. Here, he taught philosophy and physics. His translation of the Bible into the vulgar tone, coupled with the religious revivalism, greatly extend the blessing of education in the common people. John Baptiste de La Salle. He was born on April 30, 1651. He founded the Institute of the Brethren of Christian Schools. La Salle received the tonsure of the age of 11 and was named Canon of Reims Cathedral, which La Salle dedicated much of his life to the education of poor children in France. He was regarded as the patron saint of teachers. De La Salle became the author of system of pedagogy that included the essential principles adopted by later workers in the field of educational reforms. Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi was raised in poverty. He realized that school teaching was his true vocation. Friedrich Wilhelm August Froben, who worked with Pestalozzi in Switzerland, where his ideas further developed in 1820. Froben published the first of his 5 kilo pamphlets, To Our German People, and the other 4 were published between then and 1823. In 1826, he published his main written work, The Education of Man, and founded the weekly publication, The Educating Families. In 1840, he coined the word kindergarten for the Play and Activity Institute he had founded in 1837 at Bad Blankenburg for young children. Together with Wilhelm Middendorf and Heinrich Langenthal, he designed the educational play materials known as Froebel gifts, which included geometric building blocks and pattern activity blocks, a book entitled Inventing Kindergarten. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, best known for his work Emily. In 1792, The Social Contract was published. It became one of the most influential works political philosophy tradition. He believed that both individuals can both preserve themselves and remain free. The growth of the child is divided into 3 sections. In the age of 12, calculating and complex thinking is not possible. In the age of 12 to 16, reasons are starting to develop, and 16 onwards, develop into an adult. Johann Friedrich Herbert, a German philosopher and educator, his theory of education, known as Herbartianism, he advocated the culture epoch theory, founder of modern scientific pedagogy. Herbart's position in the history of philosophy is due mainly to his contributions to the philosophy of mind. His aims in the respect are expressed by the title of his textbook, Psychology as Knowledge Newly Founded on Experience, Metaphysics, and Mathematics. Pedro Poveda, founder of Theresian Association in 1911. His apostolic ministry was first exercised among the cave dwellers. In 1906, he was assigned as canon in Marian Sanctuary of Covadonga, modified Christian education with his own Christian humanism. In 1911, Pedro founded the Saint Teresa of Avila Academy, the foundation of Institution Teresiana. He joined the Apostolic Union of Secular Priests in 1912. In 1914, he opened Spain's first university residence for women in Madrid. In 1921, he was transferred to the Madrid and was appointed a chaplain of the Royal Palace. John Henry Newman, 1801 to 1890, a leader of the Oxford movement, and later a cardinal in Roman Catholic Church, outstanding religious thinker and essayist. He was one of the chief contributors to the tracts for the Times, for which he wrote 29 papers. In 1864, Newman published his masterpiece, Apologia pro vita sua, means apology for his life. In Lecture on the Doctrine of Justification, 1838, Newman attempted to find a via media between justification by faith and by works. Essay on the Development of Christian Doctrine, 1845, Newman's other important writings include an essay in aid of a grammar of assent, 1870. His La Idea of a University is a landmark in writing on the nature of the University of Education. Wrote his novel entitled Lost, 1848, and Gain in 1856. John Dewey, 1859 to 1952. After getting his degree, he started a teaching job at a seminary in Oil City, Pennsylvania. But later on, Dewey lost the position when his cousin resigned as principal of the seminary. He went back to Vermont and started teaching at a private school in Vermont. In 1894, Dewey started an experimental elementary school. In 1919, he co-founded the New School for Social Research. He published over 1,000 pieces of writing during his lifetime. Maria Montessori, 1870 to 1952. Italian physician Maria Montessori was a pioneer of theories in early childhood education, which are still implemented in Montessori schools all over the globe. As a doctor, Montessori chose pediatrics and psychiatry as her specialties. During that time, she observed that intrinsic intelligence was present in children of all socio-economic backgrounds. Montessori became the director of the Orthophrenic School for Developmental Disabled Children in 1900s. Montessori's success with developmental disabled children spurred her desire to test her teaching methods on normal children. Paulo Freire. His wife influenced Paulo to intensely pursue his studies and helped him to elaborate his groundbreaking educational methods. Present-day Education in Brazil, written in 1959. His conviction would earn him the title of Traitor Pedagogy, not just reading the word, but also reading the world. First experiment in first method when 300 farm workers were taught to read and write in just 45 days. In 1967, he published his first book. In 1968, he wrote his famous Pedagogy of the Oppressed, published in Spanish and English in 1970. Herbert Spencer, 1820 to 1903. He wrote Principles of Psychology, published First Principles, an exposition of his evolutionary theory of the underlying principles of all domains of reality. In 1884, his work, Man versus the State, was published. He attempted to compile all knowledge in his synthetic philosophy, advocate the theoretical concept, survival of the fittest, change in society.